name's Ben. This is Megan. This is our bus, Kevin.
It's named after the person that we bought the bus from. We were about a month away from becoming debt-free, and we were starting to kind of browse around online of different options, vintage trailers, tiny homes, a yurt, and then we stumbled upon this really cool Craigslist ad, very descriptive about this old prison bus mobile command center that had a generator and shore power and all of these different things already set up. The body was in really good condition. It was down in Massachusetts, and we, within a week, went down and saw it, toured it, met the really interesting gentleman who was selling it, and we were sold. So entryway area is not done yet. It's on the to-do list.
Yep, we want to escape the cold of Maine, so that is still something we gotta do. Alright, so this is a retired prison bus. So as you can see, we do have cages left over in here. We decided to keep 2 of them in the front and the back for security reasons, and it kind of looks cool. So when we're out hiking, we can lock the bus up tight. This is everything we own. This is where we live, so we want to keep it secured, and it works great for that.
And we can lock that front door as well. We just have to enter in through the back cage, hop up on the bed, unlock this cage, and then open it. So it's a little bit of a to-do, but if we have the option either way of keeping everything secure. So when we're driving, I'm up front here with Ben. We found this really cool low-profile jump seat that's mounted to our prison cage up front here. And it's wonderful. I get to see everything as we're driving, and our dog Moose, actually, we put his dog bed right up front here with us as well. So all 3 of us get to be up front watching and hanging out up there when we're driving.
SuburbanSeats.com.
Their customer service is amazing. They're actually like a female-owned company too. Small business, but we had it shipped within a day or 2.
Yeah.
And I believe it was about $300. Well worth it. I would do it all over again. Very safe seatbelt and everything.
Yeah,
as well.
all quality. I'm actually going to upgrade my seatbelt because I just have the legal lap belt, which does nothing for you to protect your life. But right now, that's what we're doing. But you can get seatbelts from them. You can get all kinds of stuff, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
So as you come on in, we got our kitchen set up right here. It's all open concept to keep it feeling nice and big. The countertop was something I picked up at a yard sale at a farmhouse in Maine. It's not actually this thick, it's only 3/4. It's just some white pine barn board that I got out of a guy's attic, which is definitely something that you get really creative in where you're gonna find all of your stuff. Go to yard sales, you know, go to old estate sales, Craigslist. You can find some really cool stuff to make your bus look fantastic.
Habitat for Humanity Restore was also a really good resource for us.
Yep.
Like with the cabinets, we built them all ourselves, and I put like different, cabinet handles on all of them, and they were, pennies on the dollar because we got everything secondhand. So.
Yep. And it makes it a little easier. You don't have to buy sets of things, they get pretty pricey, especially if you're going with
and they kind of look like everyone else. So we wanted to, do some little elements that were very unique. And Ben used to manage a reclaimed lumber company, so we have many elements in here that are decades old, like the countertop, as Ben said, and also the floor, which is gorgeous and has its own character.
That's a reclaimed factory maple floor from Longleaf Lumber. And basically it was an old maple floor in a factory. It got oil on it, it got destroyed. Longleaf Lumber took it, re-milled it, repurposed it, and made it into this awesome thing that you see here, and it works great. It's nice and rustic, so if you do scuff it up, or if you have a dog with, toenails scratching it, it looks fine, looks natural, so that really worked out for us. And it's really hard, which we kind of like. You do have to consider moisture in the bus and how you lay things down. We do have the floor insulated, so it's a floating floor, and then we have plywood down as a subfloor, which is tied into the walls with L brackets to keep things from moving too much, and it's all glued, and then we just laid the factory maple on top and nailed it down. We didn't glue it because I didn't want any cracking issues. Going forward, we probably could have, and it would have been fine because it's a narrow board, but if you go with any wide boards, gluing things down, you sometimes can get some checking that goes along the center of it. So I use Waterlux, which is an oil base. It's similar to tung oil. It's some people have used tung oil on flooring, but it's not very durable, and you have to put a lot of coats to get any gloss, and you're always trying to maintain it. Waterlux is a great tung oil product that is hard enough and durable enough for floors. You do have to recoat it, but it's also really easy to maintain. So after a while, things start to fade. You don't have to resand everything. You can just lay another coat right on top of it. And it's been around for, you know, I think the 1800s, late 1800s, something like that. So it's got a nice historical feel to it.
So the dining area here is pretty simple. This is also reclaimed. It's an old butcher block that we cut down, and I believe Ben backplaned it as well. So the table, I don't know if you can see it underneath, but it has little stops underneath it that hold it up, and we can flip it down when we're traveling.
Folds up and down.
Which is really nice.
Or if you want to do a little workout, P90X insanity in the bus, and you're not going to jump too high, then fold that down. There's plenty of space right here. Yep. And that was really, like, important to us to maintain the space. It's not a big bus. It's a 31-footer, so you got to, you know, design it to the lifestyle that you want. We're not very private with each other, so we're able to keep things simple and wide open all the way to the bed. We'll go to the bathroom later. I'll show you guys that after. But things that fold down, things that can be tucked away, that was really important to us so that we can maintain the larger feel in a really small space.
Back to the cabinets for a second. We have like a small lip here, which I was a little bit concerned about because we obviously left Maine with some projects still to be done. We wanted to put a little, you know, stopper here, a little guard to keep the stuff in there, but we haven't had anything fall out of the cabinets yet, and I store all of my dry goods in like ball jars and things like that, and nothing's fallen out or broken yet, knock on wood. So that's really worked out, and everything fits too. As you can see, we don't have too much cabinet space, but we've traveled 3,400 miles, and we've been in the bus for a couple of weeks now, and things are working out. We're actually finding that we brought a little bit too much stuff, you know, so you find that out once you actually get out there and start living full-time in the bus. So. Yeah. I love cooking, I love baking, so I was a little bit concerned at first going very simple with our kitchen setup. Maine, the state of Maine is very strict about ensuring a bus conversion like this, so we ran into a bit of trouble with that. Thankfully, we were on the beginning end of our conversion, so we were able to set it up accordingly. And so the one thing that they get really hung up on is having a full stove and propane and all of that stuff in your cooking area. So we decided to go for a very small butane, you know, cooktop like this, just one, even though we love cooking, because it's a way around it, and they're fine with that. It's totally okay. So I cook all of our own meals. We don't really go out to eat much, and I've been able to maintain the same diet that we would at home. Yeah. Pretty much. Probably even healthier.
Minus the cookies and the pizza, because we don't have an oven.
Yeah, I do miss cookies and pizza. I rocked both of those before at home. But yeah, so that's been fine, and this sink, actually I want to mention a little bit about that. So while we were building the bus this summer, we tried out a very small sink. It was, I don't know, 10 by 10 or something. It was square, like a hand wash sink. Yeah. We were like, that's going to be plenty. We're living in a bus. This will be fine. It was the worst. Like within a couple of weeks of attempting to wash dishes in something that small, we wanted to go for a bigger sink. So we found this secondhand. I think it cost us $5 or $8.
Restore.
It was the Restore, yeah.
So,
and this double bay is great. We can use the right side as kind of drying and everything. So one of the systems that we weren't able to get set up is our hot water before we left. So we just have like 2 tanks underneath the sink. We have 2 tanks underneath the sink, 1 5-gallon fresh water, and then 1 gray tank underneath. So those are all, you know, piped into the sink. And then we just have a very simple marine hand pump for right now. And it's been great. It's been fine for now. It works for now.
You gotta heat up water for right now, but, you know, that's...
To wash dishes, yes, yeah.
That's fine.
Would it be better if we had a nice, large, you know, faucet that had hot running water at a moment's notice? Yes, but we'll get there. That's fine.
I will say that having something like this has trained us to conserve our water. And when you're out here in Arizona, it's really important. You don't have streams or anything like that where you can fill up. So
especially if you're boondocking.
If you're boondocking, your water is very important, and we found that we can make 5 gallons work for
a couple of days at least.
Sometimes 2 days, a little less if we decide to do a solar shower, but doing dishes with just a little bit, it's totally doable. When we actually get the faucet, I'm a little worried that we'll get so spoiled with it, we'll start using up all of our water. But I think with the training, we'll be all right. Absolutely, it makes you think about all of your water usage when you're in a home or apartment, and how much we're spoiled with that, and can not even think about it. And I mean, even when you flush a toilet and you have a gallon or whatever that goes down, we have a composting toilet, which you'll see, so we can avoid that. But dishwashers and sinks and stuff like that.
That's a lot of water.
That's a lot. So
the other thing that it's taught me so far, living in the bus full time, what it's taught me is about trash. Right? So living in a regular apartment, you don't really think about it. You put your trash on the side of the road or in a dumpster, and it's not a big deal. But you have to think about where you're going to put it. And so we've cut the amount of trash. Like, we're conscious about the food that we buy and the packaging that it comes in a little bit more than we used to, because that'll equal trash on the back end. So, and zero food waste too, if at all possible.
Yeah, we'll pair pretty much every meal with a little bit of bread to clean our plate, so it makes doing dishes a lot easier, and it's tasty. So originally when we bought the bus, we had 2 very large AC units on top of the bus. Great.
No safety hatch because...
Yes, we did not have any emergency hatch because it was a prison bus, so last thing you want is prisoners crawling out of a bus. So we ended up getting rid of our AC units, thinking that we would rather be off-grid, we'd rather not have to worry too much about powering something like that, and bulk up the insulation. We can't be in 100+ degrees, but we're in probably close to 80 right now, and it's very comfortable. We replaced them with just very simple RV roof vents. There's no fan in there, but they do work fantastic. I think I got them for $20 on Amazon, something simple as that. And the holes were standard, so they fit right in there, just like the AC unit fits right in there. Yep, didn't have to modify it. The person who installed them did them a little crooked, which drove me crazy, but we're going to live with it.
Yeah.
And the insulation is probably one of the most important things that you're going to do in a bus. So I think I spent a month's worth of work doing that. A lot of people go with the spray foam insulation, which is absolutely fantastic. I tried to go a little bit cheaper, so what I ended up doing was doing the hard foam insulation. For insulation, I did 2-inch hard foam insulation, glued up on a curve. Any gaps in there, I just filled with gaps and cracks. Spray foam, great stuff, which is great and also very messy. Make sure that it is the first thing that you do in your bus and not after you've laid down your floor, because once you're done, it looks like an alien cocoon in here. And you gotta cut off all the little pieces. So I had that lay down at first. There's like over 200 cut individual pieces that I had to lay on the curve. If I had to do it all over again, I don't think I would do it that way. I would do the spray foam insulation.
That took you the entire month of July.
Yeah. Pretty much a nightmare. But, live and you learn. On top of that, I did bubble wrap Reflectix and then a 1-inch air gap.
With spacers.
With spacers in there. And then putting the original panels back up, I glued another layer of bubble wrap Reflectix on top of that. So the only thing that's touching the ribs of the bus are the tech screws that are holding up these interior panels.
So if you touch the roof panels on a hot day, it's nice and cool and comfortable.
Yeah. It's like a thermos. There's an air space. You have very little conduction. So you're thinking about insulation and you're thinking about conduction in a space like this, and you're in a metal enclosure, so it's important.
Heat and the cold, it works.
Yeah. As far as insulation goes, same thing with the walls. I didn't end up doing this. I just have regular pink foam insulation in the walls. I think I used a 3-inch pink foam insulation. Don't lose a lot of heat in the walls or gain a lot of heat in the walls. But I think still, if I had to do it all over again, I would do spray foam and possibly bubble wrap insulation with an air gap to keep that conduction down. Really don't want to skimp on any type of insulation. The floor is insulated with 1.5-inch hard foam, which I think I already mentioned.
So I'll pick up from there. We lose a lot of heat and gain a lot of heat from the windows. So we decided to, I see a lot of bus conversions that remove certain windows or all of them. We decided to keep all of them. Nice and bright in here is just something that we wanted. So But we made these curtains, which help a lot, but you still gain and lose a lot of heat in through the windows. So a work in progress. You know, we might upgrade that in the future to do some bubble wrap Reflectix to, you know, hold in our heat or keep it out.
I originally built this small space in here to have bubble wrap Reflectix roll down on either really hot days or really cold days on just one side of the bus. So if you're parked, you park towards the sun on that side of the bus to keep the heat out.
It's really been fine so far. Like, we've been
finding out it's fine.
We've slept in the bus on cold Maine nights and warmer Arizona, you know, days, and I think it's been very cool and comfortable 99% of the time so far. So
just conscious of how you park and where you're parking in the sun. It's wintertime right now, so the sun is not as strong and it's not as high in the sky. And the curtains really do help. They do also sell blackout curtains, which we have yet to install, which do a really great job. It's just a very thin, like plastic material.
Blackout is they sell it, you know, by the yard as you would fabric. So on our curtain that we have, which I highly suggest, a curtain across the front to kind of block the front cab from the body of your bus. With that curtain, I sewed in a layer of blackout, so it's nice and thick, and you know, as soon as you cover it, you can feel the heat or, you know, the cool in here so much more. So it really helps it significantly, and it also looks really nice. So.
Yep, you can sew it right to the back of your curtains or have it as a separate curtain. It'll always be a work in progress, just like owning a home. You're going to be thinking about things you can add, thinking about what you can upgrade. We're going to continue our cabinets over here to have
more storage space. So that's the one thing we've realized so far. We don't have a lot of stuff. We got rid of like 90% of our belongings before we left Maine, but still, we need a little bit more storage space because a small space like this, 165 square feet, and it gets messy really fast. So think about that, how you live your life, how much stuff you have, and, you know, having it kind of tucked away in a cabinet or something neater really makes a big difference.
Oh, one thing I want to touch on too. So I did all the woodworking myself, not because I'm a fancy woodworker, just because YouTube is available and you can learn all these things. I have power tool experience and stuff like that, but that's very simple. Anyone can learn it. One tool that I would recommend if you're doing your own cabinetry, and I used it for so many things in the bus, is a pocket screw jig. It's fantastic. It's a method of joinery that you just drill an angular hole, and then you're able to make cabinet carcasses, any type of box. It takes all the time out of it.
Everything. I mean, any built-ins, the cabinets, the couch, everything.
Everything is screwed together.
Pocket screw jig, yeah.
If you add glue to that too, like, that's another thing. Your bus is going to shake and rattle, and hopefully never roll. So, glue, screw, everything you can. There's a lot of weight inside your cabinets if you're hanging them, so you have to make sure that you bolt them not just to panels, but you got to go right through to the actual ribs of your bus.
So that
everywhere you can.
Positioning really, dictates.
Tech screws are your best friend. Use them, and overkill is definitely important. I didn't do any runners going in this direction at all. This is all just, the panels are just screwed into the original ribs of the bus. And so, like, these are secured at these points, and then also along here. These are put in with just your regular self-tapping screws as well.
So I see some buses that leave the metal like frames around the windows exposed. So we had extra flooring, so we used every bit of this reclaimed floor. So we used it on the window frames here, also with the face of the cabinets, and then also with the couch. So we'll move on to the couch. So I was mentioning that we used every foot of this reclaimed wood floor in other places too. So we used it on the faces of the cabinets and all of the window frames here, up and down. And then also on the couch here, I'll let Ben talk about how awesome this couch design that he found on, I don't know where you found it, but it's awesome.
As with pretty much every tiny home idea, Pinterest and YouTube and all those fun sites, this is where I got the inspiration for that. But I use this here. Here, let's get this out of the way. So this is the couch. We're using it for storage mostly now, but it does pull out to a guest bed if anyone is brave enough to come stay in our bus with us. We had leftover flooring, pulls out like that, interlock the tongue and groove, and it also lifts up like a chest. So in your bus, you're always thinking about extra space. Anywhere you can store things. We have some books in there right now. But it's a really simple design if you do want to have a guest bed. It's just you're screwing every other slat to a piece of wood so that you have a stopper. And then you just screw it in. Here's a good example of that pocket screw jig in action. I used it for this as well. Everything looks more complicated until you start doing it. That's absolutely true. So for something like this, which looks intricate, it has moving pieces to it. Honestly, I had a hard time finding a how-to for this, but I did see a lot of pictures, and sometimes it boils down to just sort of inspecting the different pictures that you can find online of, you know, the little pieces and making up as you go. Oftentimes, once you start, most of the pieces inside this bus and most of the woodworking that's done starts with a box. Everything's a box, and you go from there. So this is a box with some tongue and groove flooring screwed to the top of it and simply interlinked.
It's also over the wheel well, right?
Yeah, you know,
so we made use of that.
You gotta cover stuff up.
Space.
The generator pops up a little bit underneath here, and the wheel well's over there. So you think about ways you can cover up the unsightly parts of your bus, but still make them functional.
And create storage space at the same time.
Exactly, create storage space. So, like, you know, you see things online where, ooh, that's a curve. Like, ooh, oh no. Jigsaw. Simple. It's not hard. Once you get going, it's easy. You know, this, oh no, moving parts, not a big deal. You just put a piece of wood to keep everything from falling down here, and you screw it in this way. So this space is kind of, we left it open. We have a 75-pound dog, so that's kind of his bed area here. Ben and I made these little chairs too. This is a good example too of like something we found a tutorial online. We love these chairs. You can buy them, I don't know, $50 to $100, who knows how much they are. Different places. I know LL Bean carries them. But anyway, you can buy these chairs, top dollar, $50, or look up a tutorial online and build it yourselves. I think this is just a fun afternoon project that we did together. Took a day to make. I sewed the top and Ben made the wood bottoms, so. Just stapled the fabric right to the wood and stuff. Pretty simple. And these are definitely online. You can probably find, in a simple search, 100 different ways to make folding wooden chairs. Yeah, way cheaper to make them yourself, so. Our table is lower than your standard table, so buying a chair wasn't, you know, a great option for us. We didn't have chairs for a long time because we couldn't find ones that we liked. We were like, do we do a stool? Do we do this? Everything was either too high or too short, so we made our own. Moose's dog bed area here, we left that area pretty open for him since he's so huge. And then we're moving over here to the wood stove, which is Ben's favorite part of the bus. He jokes around that he built the entire bus around the wood stove. So I was talking about how, you know, a large regular size wood stove obviously won't work for a tiny home, but we found tinywoodstove.com, tinywoodstoves.com. Yeah. And this little dwarf stove is awesome. We love it. So I'll let Ben kind of talk about the setup, and he built this really awesome hearth around it as well and reinforced it, so I'll let him talk about that. Yeah, so this definitely was a project. It has so much ambiance and homey feel, which was very, very important to us. Again, it's a tiny space. It's all we have, and the last thing we wanted to feel is like we're living out of a vehicle. We want to feel like this is home. Mm-hmm. So this little guy is a 4-kilowatt dwarf stove from tinywoodstoves.com. They make their own, which is the dwarf line, and they also, I believe, sell a bunch of other lines like the Hobbit and stuff like that. So they are a really great resource. It came with pretty much everything. I think you just had to buy one additional length of stovepipe. Yep, which was pretty simple. So like you don't have a standard pipe with a small wood stove like this, but you got to be careful not to mix up the I think this is a 3-inch or 4-inch diameter. You can find that diameter in a lot of hardware stores, but it's made for pellet stoves, and they can't handle the temperature of a wood stove. So we had this little bend custom made at just your regular wood stove shop. Very simple fabrication. Yep, it was just I don't know, maybe $40 or something like that. Not hard to find, and they can give you the right gauge of steel for that. And then going through your wall, especially with your insulation, you don't want to go through your wall and worry about lighting your insulation on fire. So you have to have a double lined stovepipe, and this thing can be, you know, up to 300, 400 degrees, and you can still put your hand on this and you don't have to worry at all. They provided the double line as well as the top, which we can look at when we go outside. It was a whole tiny home kit, which worked out very well for the bus. It's made to secure, it's made to be mobile, so I would definitely check them out. And the stove bolts right in too, so that's another thing. They're made to just not go anywhere when you're driving.
It's another example of us kind of using what we had and as much secondhand as possible. The granite slab that you see it sitting on, we picked that up at a yard sale. It used to be attached to like this wooden kitchen cart. I think it cost us $20. So we pulled that off of it. I sold the wooden cart part of it and we used the granite in here. So really worked out.
But we're driving 55, 60 miles an hour, and this is a 100-pound wood stove, so you got to make sure you secure everything down everywhere. So the granite, you can just use a carbide bit, drill bit for that, drilled holes into that, and then lag bolted everything through all the way through to the wheel well. There is plywood underneath here as well. And then the hearth, this was a tricky thing because this is actually hollow. This is fake brick tile. So a lot of vibration. Or if somebody comes over and they want to lean on this thing, you got to overbuild stuff. So it's very simple though. I just made a plywood form, and then I put some cement board down on it. I asked the guys at Home Depot what is the best mortar you can use, stickiest for a mobile situation. So I don't know the name of it, but you know, they pointed me in the right direction.
It's more flexible than your standard mortar.
Haven't had any problems with it, but with a thin wall like this, I had to make sure that it couldn't flex at all, so you pop your tiles off. So I just took some steel, flat steel here, and then square tubing steel all along here, and I just screwed all that into the wheel well, into the wall, to keep stuff from moving. And
super solid.
As simple as that. I used an angle. You know, I didn't need a wet saw from that. You know, a lot of times you'll see tile cutters. They can be very expensive. I just got a diamond bit for my angle grinder, which, if you're doing a bus conversion and you don't have an angle grinder, you're not going to do a bus conversion. So that was, I don't know, $10. Very simple. You can cut all the tile with that. I had no cracking. It was fantastic. And this thing heats up the bus, no problem. Really, you know, you could go a little bit larger if you're in really cold climates. I would go with the 5 kilowatt. But, you know, and you'll get a longer burn time because you have a bigger box.
But we don't plan to be in cold climates for very long, so. And then he has this really nice wood storage area to the right of the stove, so. Yep. Kindling in the box behind.
Iron pipe.
So yeah, those elements like the wood stove, like the couch, the chairs, these little things that we've done ourselves really make it feel like home, and I think that's so important. I actually kind of had a bit of a breakdown right before we left on this trip because we had just moved out of our apartment. You know, this was it. Like, it wasn't just this thing we were looking forward to anymore. We were actually going to live in the bus, and it was scary. It's a little bit scary, you know, but within a day or two of actually reaping the benefits of all this hard work in this homey space we've created, it was awesome. It really was.
Yep.
Yeah. So now I'm sold. I'm totally into it. It's wonderful. Move on to the bathroom situation. It's one of the most frequently asked questions I get is, where's your toilet? And where's your shower? What do you guys do for that? Because we don't have any walls put up, so it's kind of we went our own way with the bathroom situation. So I'll let Ben explain about that.
We have a composting toilet. It is an Airhead. There is much debate about the Airhead and the Nature's Head. I think both are fantastic products.
They're expensive, but
totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
And, you know, all in all, you don't need a black tank when you have a composting toilet. It takes care of all of that. Separates the pee from the poo. So you're not creating sewage. And it's as simple as when you stop at a truck stop, you can dump your pee down the toilet. And once the compost is done doing its thing, you can get we haven't gone through a full cycle of this yet, but I hear about a month's worth of full-time use with 2 people. you're gonna spend, $900 to $1,100 for a really nice composting toilet, but you get all the components with it, and you don't have to spend that money on a black tank. So it's not that expensive. It's totally worth getting, and it doesn't smell at all.
Because
ever.
you're an awesome
There's
fan.
a vent that goes through, vents out the bottom of the bus. Would definitely be careful about where you put that vent. If you have any intakes or anything like that, any fans, just be aware of where that's venting out. And you also want to be aware that you're not creating any weird backdrafts when you're driving. So you want to
We've
have
heard
that
that
negative
before.
suction continuing to make sure that you're not getting any weird wafty smells through it. But I mean, you can literally open it up and there is no smell at all because that fan just keeps things going in it.
The fan runs off our solar too.
Yeah. Fan runs off our solar. It's just a small DC computer fan, and that has to run 100% of the time. So make sure if you are hooking that up to your battery bank that you have enough battery power to make sure that that never stops running, because then the smell will happen. So it's really simple. This is our nightstand and our toilet. So I hear a lot of schoolies and conversion vehicles kind of joking about like where their toilets are in their bus, and some people can make breakfast and sit on the toilet at the same time. Ours is our nightstand and it's our toilet. Doors open up, that swings up. If you wanted to keep an open concept and still have privacy, we have considered the idea of just having some fold-up curtains that come up after you open, and you can have this a complete enclosure. What's great about keeping the original panels instead of doing wood paneling is that everything's magnetic, which it was the reason that we wanted to keep it. Aside from it kind of keeps the original look of the bus, which we like. And again, you can put magnetic curtains in your shower, you can do it in your toilet, and you don't have to sacrifice all of your space. It uses zero water, aside from us doing a little spritz every now and then to clean it. So like we have just a 40-gallon tank in the back for our fresh water, our drinking water, and our dishwater and everything like that, and it can last us 2 weeks, like no problem.
Yeah.
So without toilet water, you can go a lot longer. This here is a work in progress at the moment, but again, it was the wheel well came out to here and we had to cover it up with something, and hey, we need a shower. Right now we have solar shower outside, which works fantastic, and even if you have an interior shower, gotta go with an outdoor solar shower as well. It makes life a lot easier when you're just doing a quick rinse. But this opens up to a Japanese soaking tub.
Which we'll show you later when we're done it.
So basically, it's just a box and has a liner inside with a little seat and a drain at the bottom. If you open this up, there will be your faucets here, and if you want to take a shower, you can just sit in there and use the wand or hang it up and have magnetic curtains that will come up as well. If you're feeling luxurious and you miss home and the warmth of taking a bath, look into Japanese soaking tubs. They're a great option to have a tub in a very small space. Almost a little bit better because you can sit down and the water goes right up to your neck rather than having to lay in a long tub. So there's a little luxury that we weren't willing to sacrifice.
So another luxury that we weren't willing to sacrifice on is the bed. So we had this awesome memory foam bed at our apartment before we moved into the bus, so we wanted the same situation. Queen size bed all the way and lots of storage underneath, so that's what we created here. The bus had these like metal pole stand things, about 9 of them, with a top and a bottom, screw holes around each. I'm just like drawing it in my brain right now. But anyhow, we used that as, the frame underneath the bed, and then built a wooden frame on top of it, and then the mattress just sits nice and tight right on top of there. So
again, this was a YouTube video of somebody making a bed frame. There's probably 100 of them out there, but you just look up queen size, king size, whatever you're gonna have, and super simple. It's
it was
2x6s,
easier than I thought
and
it would be.
it's a lot, very, very simple build video to do that. And then if you like Megan was saying, we did have some like neat metal stands that we used to hold the bed up, but it's as simple as using something like iron pipe with the little tops and bottoms, screwing that in. That can hold your bed in place, and then you just want to make sure you also screw it to the walls to keep it from shaking when you're driving.
So the bed, you know, is kind of our dog goes up on there sometimes. It's a very comfortable place for us to feel like we're at home, so we love it, you know, and eventually we'd like to build I see some buses that have like, you know, bookshelves and some storage space at the foot of the bed. I love that. So this summer we're thinking of adding that space over here because we do have some kind of dead space at the foot of the bed, so storage opportunities there. So underneath, I love this part. So we downsized our clothing so much. I probably only kept about 10% of what we owned. So we each have, Ben made these really nice flush drawers, which again, one of those projects that seemed a lot, you know, more complicated, but once he did it, I was like, wow, that's, you know,
Just a box.
It came out really well, and it's just a box. So anyway, we have a his and hers, you know, that holds all of our clothes right there.
Slides out to about there.
Slides right out. And then we have these nice little locks, which if you forget to lock it, it's the worst when you're driving. So, but very simple. And then underneath, that kind of holds our electronics and stuff like that, and also doubles as a little step up onto the bed, because our bed's a bit high. So,
Yep, you can step up on
as
that.
Ben is demonstrating.
Just like that.
Yeah, so that's been kind of enough storage. And then one other little storage area, which I'll let Ben explain because it's one of his favorite things.
Again, aside from the wood stove, this is my favorite part of the bus. It's my secret storage compartment. It's just a little kick door.
Very pumped about that.
Yeah. There's some very secret toilet paper stashed away in there.
Super fancy. So the rest of the storage that we have underneath the bed is accessed from the back door, and we call it the garage. Our solar, you know, components, our batteries are underneath there. What else? Our freshwater tank, our backpacks, those are big and bulky for hiking and other fun things.
So that's
All
something
down there.
that
Tools.
was important too. When you're RVing full time and you're going to be in cold climates, you got to think about your fresh water and freezing. So we chose to keep the freshwater tank, instead of being mounted underneath the bus, we keep it inside. I have heard people also mounting it underneath the bus and just insulating it in a box itself. You can be as simple as putting a light that shines at it, which will keep it from freezing. But if you're going to be in really cold climates for any lengthy period of time, you're going to get freezing problems. Mm-hmm. So we keep that underneath the bus there. It is not all plumbed into the sink yet, but when it is, another aspect of keeping things from not freezing is that we're just going to have some exposed pipes that go across the top. Sort of just play off that industrial look that's very popular and
copper
looks good, and you can always hang stuff on
Okay,
it.
so at first we thought that we would be able to survive off of a Yeti cooler. Definitely can't. That only takes you so far. So we actually got a smallish fridge, which holds everything that, I mean, and we're big on healthy, you know, I cook all of our own food and everything. We cook all of our own food. So it's been completely sufficient. It has a tiny freezer, which doesn't work that well, but that's okay. And it runs off of our solar. So that's really wonderful. I think we got it at Home Depot, again, like a sale thing. I believe it was about $100.
$100 for a small fridge like that, and honestly, some people ask about the propane electric hybrids, which are really great, but propane makes me uncomfortable, especially because I have a wood stove in here, so simple as running a tiny dorm fridge off some solar. Works great.
Works great. So for our drinking water, we keep this Berkey water filter filled all the time. This is wonderful. I believe it was about $300, a little bit pricey, but wow, it can filter out just about anything. We put all kinds of different, you know, water sources into it, and it generates the most delicious water ever. So we always keep this full for our drinking water, and then the fresh water that we get from, you know, wherever we are, we use for dishes and things like that. So the Berkey is wonderful for drinking water.
That thing they use that in third world countries, and it honestly can filter out the nastiest looking water. The way we test it to make sure that the filters don't need to be changed is you put food coloring in your water and it'll filter out the food coloring and come out clear. So that's the kind of power that this thing has. The filters last about 6 months to a year depending on your usage of it, and we've never had to change them yet because we're not going like wild with it until right now, but it's definitely worth the price that it is.
Mm-hmm. So when we bought our bus, it was this kind of scary shade of black /red/dusty rust. The condition of the paint was pretty good. There was just surface rust, nothing, no pitting, no holes or anything like that. So that was one of the major reasons why we purchased this bus, was because the body was in such good condition. But we knew that we had to paint it. Like from day one, we were not going to accept the way that it looked before. So we at first thought, okay, we'll do the interior conversion and sub out the painting part. So we got 3 quotes. All were within the range of $9,000 to $12,000 minimum to get the bus painted, and that was even with us doing some of the prep work ourselves.
Yeah, that did not include any body work at all. So
and
you're talking $15,000 for a professional job.
All in, exactly. So that wasn't something that we were willing to put in. So we started to think of ways that we could paint the bus ourselves, and what we realized is that it would just require a significant amount of elbow grease. Not as much as we ended up putting it, or we didn't anticipate how much work it would actually be. It probably took us, we just worked on weekends because we both had full-time jobs during the conversion, so we just worked on weekends, and it was in pretty favorable temperatures, and it required both of us, 10 hours a day of meticulous sanding. Ben did a lot of Bondo. I did some Bondo too.
Yeah, so that's something that I think was a little unique to our bus. It had been converted into a mobile command center, and the people who did that conversion just put a bunch of bolts through the walls. So when we bought the bus and finally removed all of the old stuff, it looked like Swiss cheese. So when dealing with holes, you can Bondo it, you can weld in new panels.
We didn't have anything big enough to require welding at all, so we used like metal and forced Bondo. Was
so
it?
There is the basic like bodywork pink Bondo stuff, which is a great product, but I wouldn't recommend it for an application like this, as it will crack over time and you'll have a ruined paint job. So I ended up you can put sheet metal behind the hole on the interior side, and then there's this metal reinforced Bondo. You can get at any Napa or whatever store like that, is rated so that you can actually drill into it. It dries really, really hard, and it'll flex with the temperature change of the metal of your bus. That stuff is fantastic. I use it on all the holes. I would absolutely recommend it, and I haven't had any cracking issues on our paint job at all.
So that was part of the prep month, I guess I'll call it. It was a real test of our marriage / the whole bus life thing in general. That I reached a breaking point on one day, I remember, where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm covered in sand and dust, and we've been doing this for so many hours. I don't think I can do this. But then we got to the weekend where we were actually going to paint. So we went to Napa Auto Parts, and we went with a 3-part automotive paint, the primer, and then the color coat. This is my favorite color on the planet, by the way. I like to be surrounded by it. I went with automotive paint. We bought like kind of a cheapish sprayer, a spray gun. I see some people rolling, some people spraying.
Harbor Freight has a great paint sprayer. It's a good quality. The guys from Napa actually recommended it to me. I think around $60 or something like that.
Totally worth it.
And worked fantastic.
Yep.
We had no problems whatsoever. Biggest thing if you're going to be using a paint sprayer is make sure you have a good compressor. You don't want a tiny pancake compressor. If you got to borrow somebody's larger compressor, really important, because you will start to lose your pressure fast, have to wait.
Uneven.
And it's all about timing when you're doing a job this big.
So there was 2 of us, just Ben and I on the paint day. So I was kind of like the mixer, and Ben was covered in a Tyvek type suit and doing all of the spraying, and I was prepping the paint and feeding it in, because the sprayer itself wasn't very big, so we had to refill it several times. And we were like running against the clock kind of thing. If you are lucky enough to be able to paint your bus in a clean room, wow, hats off to you. That's so awesome. We had to paint it in like a sand pit. It was a sand pit. Yeah. It's kind of parking lot, kind of like this, but
I know, it sounds like every professional painter in the world would be like, what? In a sandy place? That's totally stupid. We were gifted with fantastic weather, and one little trick is to wet your area with a hose to keep the dust down.
Yep.
It's hard to find a place to park a giant rig like this to have it sprayed. So you got to work with what you got.
We did the best with what we had to work with, and we think it came out awesome. So all in, doing the paint job ourselves cost us, I would say, about $700. And if you compare that to $9,000 to $12,000 minimum, we're pretty happy with it. Work-wise, at least, let's say 10, 20, 40, 60, probably 100 hours, both of us at least.
And that's 90% prepping. The paint job itself took 1 day.
4 hours. Yeah, it took 4 hours. The actual paint. I remember we started
That's
it at
priming
like
and painting.
4:30 p.m. and we ended around 8:30, and by the end of it we were lighting the bus with our headlights because it was dark in Maine at that point. So, you know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so weird how you spent an entire month basically prepping it to do 4 hours of work at the end to make it look. It was
Yep.
wild.
And as much prep work as you're gonna do, you'll always feel like you could have done more. But
Yeah.
at some point, you gotta just call it. If we could go back in time, sure, I might have ground a little bit more down and smooth some surfaces up a little bit more.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a bus that's got old paint and you have chipping paint, then you have to feather it real smooth so that you don't see the old paint lines. But what the great thing about a bus like this is it's got rub rails, it's busy already. No one's going to be looking at it with a magnifying glass, so don't stress about stuff like that.
Right. It's more about protecting it. That's what we were really concerned about, because we had the bus for over a year before we painted it, and going through a northeast winter, you know, I don't know, we wanted to protect it, so now we feel like it is, and we're really happy with it. So you get the paint job done, but there's still quite a bit of work after that, because you have to take off all of your hardware before you actually paint it. So we kept all of our original hardware, and we used rust reformer. We probably used, I don't know, 10 cans of this. It's a black Rust-Oleum product, rust reformer. So I just did that on all of our hardware, and then a nice coat of black gloss, because the actual hardware was in rough shape, but it's better than buying brand new stuff. And we have plenty of mirrors. So we drove it all the way across country, and Ben's super happy with the mirrors, I would say.
Yeah, when you're driving something like this, it's not like your new RVs with the awesome views and the curved glass. You have a lot of blind spots, so lots of mirrors. If you don't have a lot of mirrors on your bus, get some more. I have 3 mirrors on the driver's side, 1 flat, and 2 that are convex that allow me to have 0 blind spots when somebody's passing you, because that's your biggest concern when you're lane changing. You want to make sure you're not merging into another car that you can't see. And these front guys are my primaries. I'm looking in these all the time. They'll show you all the way from the nose of your bus to the tail. The only blind spot I have in this thing is in the very back. You can't see behind your bus, obviously. You just get a reverse camera, and it's no problem whatsoever. Very easy to set up, especially with the school buses with the bottom window in the door. Really easy to mount a reverse camera. Totally worth getting. That's
Yeah.
locked, I
It's
think,
not,
right
it's
now.
locked. Okay, so we and I've seen some buses that don't have any exterior storage. We have a bit of it. We have a full spare tire on the other side, and then these 2 metal storage boxes, which I think holds our tools. Like, we have a couple
got
toolboxes in there.
Two regular sized toolboxes in here for just like on-roads type stuff, wrenches and stuff like that. This is our starter battery. This is not locked. That pulls out on the slide as well. I would like a little bit more storage.
And we have a spot for it. And
Yeah,
then
there's a couple extra spots. This
moving
generator
down,
here.
So this generator came with the bus. We used it more before we got solar. We have 2 300-watt panels on top that power pretty much everything we use inside the bus right now. So we haven't really used it since we've been on this particular trip, but prior to, it was essential. When we were painting the bus, we ran our compressor off of the generator, which made for an interesting day because we had to kind of cover up the generator but allow it to breathe. But it's been really great. And any case where we didn't have power when we were working on the bus, we were able to just start it up like
It's
a
a 50
dream.
amp generator, so you can power tools. It's great. We really lucked out with that with the bus. What's nice too is out here in Arizona, we don't have to worry about cloudy days right now, so we haven't had to use it. But when your batteries start to die, make sure you tie in your generator to your battery bank, and you can flip that thing on and keep them topped off because you don't want those to get too low. It will ruin your battery bank. So originally we went with Alt-E, which is a great company out of Massachusetts. We went with a solar kit. They have a tiny house kit. So we have two 300-watt panels on the roof and 400 amp hours of AGM batteries. We went with the AGM batteries instead of your standard lead acid batteries because they don't require
venting.
Technically, they require venting in a catastrophic, but they are closed. They don't leak hydrogen gas like lead acid batteries do. So they're a little less maintenance, a little more expensive, but not that bad.
And the reason we went with a kit was because the solar was the one area that we weren't super well versed on, and it's nice, you know, to have that face-to-face via the phone about what you need, what you don't need, that kind of thing. So the kit kind of came with everything. It actually came with some extra stuff that we worked with this really knowledgeable friend of a friend who helped us install the solar. That was essential, and he was able to tell us exactly out of the kit what we needed and what we didn't. So that might be an area where assistance is very welcome.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend going forward,
right.
if we were to do it all over again, now that we know what we need, I don't think I will go with a kit. I would definitely pick our components out the way we want to customize it.
Learn.
You live and you learn. You will pay more with a kit, and you will definitely get probably more than you need, which is not a bad thing. We have a really great charge controller, Midnight Solar charge controller, so I never worry about our batteries, you know, getting overcharged or undercharged, anything like that. Our inverter's really high quality as well, so I'm thankful that we went with that. But talk to an expert, speak to a couple of people, speak to the guy who's going to install it if it's not going to be you. If you don't have any experience and you're not very comfortable with electricity, absolutely go with a professional and who has done a solar application. These panels will collect electricity regardless if they're plugged into anything, so when you're mounting them, that is something you have to consider. It's not like tying yourself into the grid.
So what we run off of it, we didn't mention this inside actually, but we have a small refrigerator. It's like about this tall with a tiny freezer. It holds everything that we need. It's been great so far on this trip. So that's always plugged into solar, always running. And then we have our fan for our composting toilet. We have a couple of lights, and I run like coffee grinder, immersion blender, small appliances like that. It's totally fine. So it's definitely sufficient for what we need.
And you just work on your timing of things. You're going to be charging your stuff during the day
phone,
and running your blenders and your vacuum cleaners. It can handle that. You just don't want to do it at night.
There were a lot of old parts that came with the bus, like different AC units and fans and other things. So there was something under here before that we ripped out.
Yeah, that's part of the back cooling and
system.
Heating,
yeah, so we took that out. We'd like to
under
do like
the bus seats. Keeping your feet warm kind of stuff.
A storage box under here. Like Ben said, we would love to have more exterior storage, so we have opportunities for that to expand on one of the projects on our to-do list, for sure. So, what else?
Moving on back to the garage, that is where all of our components for our solar is. On one side, and then boxed off, we have our freshwater tank on this side. We did end up going with a portable gray tank, and I think we're just going to sell it because
it didn't fit under the bus.
Yeah, we're going to go with a mount now that we know that we're not going to be in freezing cold temperatures all the time, and it's kind of cumbersome. So it's great, but it didn't work for our application. So
trial and error.
Trial and error. You learn those things as you get on the road. It's okay to say, forget about it. We don't need it anymore. We're not using it, and don't force it.
There's also some metal fabrication we'd like to do out back. Like, we used to have a 24-foot pneumatic antenna on the back that the Mobile Command Center used as an antenna. Yeah, surveillance. So we took that off, but it left kind of a yucky looking, metal area there. So we're going to do some projects to cover that up in the future. So.
Oh, one thing I wanted to touch on is the roof paint. We just painted it white with a roll-on Rust-Oleum. We didn't spray the roof because no one's going to see it, and we didn't want to waste all that time and energy and money on using auto paint for the roof.
It's fine.
The Rust-Oleum white paint's great. A lot of people use the elastomeric siliconized coating for the roof, and honestly, I think that's great. We're probably going to switch over to that once we do a little bit more work on the bus. Totally worth it. I hear wonderful things about temperature differences once you actually have that on there. I think it's Henry's is a great product.
But we've actually, I think because of the work we put in with the installations, it hasn't been necessary.
Hasn't been necessary, but overkill's good.
Thank you so much for coming over to our bus and taking a tour of the inside and outside It's been really fun. So we're on Instagram at Wild Drive Life, where we post all kinds of random things, interior, exterior, a lot of photos of my dog and hiking and all that stuff. But something that we really focus on is being debt-free. We're super passionate about it. When Ben and I started this whole, dream and process, we had about $100,000 of debt, student loan and vehicle debt. We paid it off. We made a plan and paid it off in 3.5 years, just working our tails off and implementing some different, lifestyle changes. So it's something that we're really passionate about and would love to share in a bigger way. So that's part of this. It's not just about the bus for us. It's about that message and delivering it. So I have a website, thewilddrive.com, and we're also going to start a YouTube channel focusing on the financial elements and how this whole lifestyle can be feasible and enjoyable, and you can live large in a small space and see wonderful places
And live free.
Live free.
Because you're not free until you're debt free.
So the links will be in the description of our social accounts and our YouTube channel and our website. So please check it out. Thank you again.
Thanks for coming.